Hey everyone, and welcome back to the stream where I'm working on my Dark Tower Defense game that I'm developing in the GDevelop studio. And today I just needed to go over some bullet collision behaviors and try to fix a little bug that I'm experiencing. As you can see, when I call the enemy waves and place the towers, the bullets will impact more than one enemy at a time, which is undesired behavior. And so I need to create, well, what I think I would like to try is implementing a structure that is specific to each bullet and have that structure count how many enemies the bullet is in collision with, and then based on whether or not there's piercing behavior or not, the bullet will then apply damage or ignore damage to those specific enemies. And so let's get started on that. Let's close the preview there. Okay, so if we go into the game scene events, and let me see if I can make that view just a little bit larger. The screen is so big that the font size in the UI is particularly small. Okay, well, it'll have to do. So scrolling down. Now this might be where I need to go. It's really pretty cool. They have all these different themes in here. I'm currently using just the GDevelop default dark. Obviously there's the light mode, but it's a bit of a flashbang. But they even have, like, if you're used to Visual Studio dark mode or whatever, a few different options over there, which are pretty neat. So, but I just stick to the basic. I do some Visual Studio myself, so I like that. Okay, so if I go to the bullet behavior, we have, this is where the bullet is hitting the enemies. So it's checking if bullet is in collision with, in this case, the object I'm checking for is called enemy backers. It's just basically like a parent class of the object I'm using for the collision. And let me open up the bullet object itself, and here are its variables. None.
Did you get a new TV?
Yeah, it's really quiet.
So let's add some. Bullet variables, add variable. This will be, let's call it enemies hit. This will be a structure. And it will start with no children. But once it's in collision, we'll add those enemy objects as children to the structure. And I also want to test this on a simpler enemy selection, because right now I've got, let's double check real quick, but it's I've got a weird shielder which has actually some regen, and then there is also the basic large enemies. And the red text is the health, and the blue is the shield points. I want to only see the basic enemy types for testing purposes right now. So let's go to where when I click the next wave button, it selects the enemy types to be spawned. And as you can see right here, I've just got a variety of numbers, and depending on the number selected based on the RNG, it's going to select the enemy type. And right now I'm selecting 2 and 3, which 2 is the basic large enemy and 3 is the shielder. So let's just do the large. So a random number between 2 and 2. So now it should just be those big black things. There we go, place the towers. And as you can see, it's hitting all 3 at the same time. That's not intended, these are not piercing bullets. I just want a basic old bullet that will be removed upon collision.
Big Wireless has once again raised their prices. In response,
So, we also want enemy IDs. So that is the piece that will be tracked in the bullet structure for enemies hit. So let's also add that variable to the enemies. In this case, it will be here, variables, which means I also need to assign it an ID whenever the enemy is created. So add variable, I'll probably just do a number. We'll call it enemy ID. It'll be a number. And then I think I need to do this for each enemy type. So let me copy the name just so I make sure it's identical. Enemy ID as number, apply, and then I'll just manually go in here for now, add that in. But I'll probably make a scene variable, which will be setting the initial enemy ID number as a starting point, even though it should just start at 0. Alright, edit variable. Okay, last one here. There are variables used in events but not declared in this list. Has circle. Okay, so that was probably when I was testing another enemy type. Circle would have been either the enemy with the icy enemy with the slowing cloud or the shielder. But that's okay, we don't need that here for this particular enemy. Well, actually, that was the shielder, so it must have been the enemy ice type. Anyways. Let's go to the top of the scene. And we will let's add a scene variable. edit scene variables, add, and we'll call this one enemy ID start. As a number, I'll tell you what, let's call it enemy ID count. And it will start at 0, and then we'll increment the enemy ID count for each enemy spawned. And each enemy spawned will be equivalent to the current count plus 1. Alright, scrolling down then to where enemies are created.
A breath of fresh air will do you a world of good. It will help you press pause and see things a little more clearly. And when you step outside and take it in...
Alright, just trying to figure out exactly which point we want to insert the enemy ID and increment. So in this case, we have a check for the number of scene variable enemy spawn count is greater than 0, and if this timer is under the spawn delay time, which I think I just have the spawn delay set to 1 second or half a second or something. So every half second enemies are spawning. And then also if we haven't reached the total number of waves for the level. So those are just the conditions to be met to spawn at all. And then from there, there's a sub-event for the RNG check for which enemy type. And that range is right here. Again, that's 2 to 2. And then once it picks its enemy type, it's going to actually spawn the enemy. And this is some slightly redundant code, but it's also got some unique elements to each enemy type. And for that reason, it looks a bit duplicated, but right now, the way it's structured, I need those to be unique and not just duplicated in like a a shared function or anything. So for now at least, let's go ahead and change or at least let's assign each of these enemies an initial ID. So this will be select the enemies group, and then we'll select, actually no, let's select the variable. So this will be an object variable, a number variable of enemies, and it will be set to the scene variable of enemy ID count. Yes. So it should be assigned enemy ID count. So I could do enemy ID count +1, but I don't think I will. I think I'll assign it directly. And then let me... Wait, why did this not take? Let me double check the naming convention here. Oh, I know why. This is not of enemies, this is of backers. Here we go. Enemy ID of enemy backers is set to enemy ID count. Let me go ahead and copy that, and I just need that over in number 2. Paste that in there, and so now I wouldn't mind creating a visual to see what the ID of each enemy is, similar to the health text. So let's do that. Let's duplicate some of the text that we have on the screen here for it. Control V and create object. We'll just call this enemy ID text.
Amazing helped Anthony through night classes.
Also
CSL Plasma.
need to actually create
And receive up to $700 your first month. You can help create medicines that save lives while making a
a
difference.
text object for that.
CSL Plasma. Do the amazing.
Let's make this, it's just an ID, let's make it green for the moment. Apply, and actually let's rename it as well. So this is enemy ID text. I could see all this in the debugger, in the debugging window, but I'd rather just see it on the screen just for ease of use. It's a bit of a meme, isn't it? You have all these debugging tools, but the ultimate debugging tool is just string cout. And you have a million of those. Alright, so create object, enemy ID text, at position. We don't want it to overlap with anything, so let's put it at Y plus, like, I don't know, 15. It probably will overlap. Actually, the shield text is plus 15. Let me double check what this is looking like. Alright, so let's do minus. We'll put it up on top. Okay. Enemy ID text at position right there, up on top. And then I need to do this sticky behavior, so we will stick, actually that's a link. I'm not even sure if I actually need to link it, but we will. Just because that's what I had been doing. Link the enemy with the ID text.
In as little as 15 weeks, you will learn full stack web development.
Then change the text of enemy ID text set to In this case, we do not care about... actually, let's just open this part up. So set it to string. Variables, scene variable, number variable. This would be enemy ID count to string, okay. And then let's run a quick test. Okay, so it is creating it once. Let's see here. Create the ID text. Ah, here we go. This is where we need to stick it on. So now it should follow. Okay, so it's 0 for all of them. But let's go ahead and have it increment. And I might find a better home for this, but for now let's just increment it right here exactly where it's called. And so this will be a scene variable update. It's the number variable, enemy ID count, have it add 1. And that will be added after it's assigned to the enemy, so it should be 0, 1, 2, etc. Yep. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There we go. And as you can see, they're all... Whenever they take damage, they all take damage, which is not... That's what we want to fix. So let's fix it. Now when... Let's go down to when the bullet collides with the enemy. So right now I have it set to meet the conditions of in collision, and then also if this Boolean variable I created called being hit of object enemies is false. Then I'm setting the Boolean value of being hit to true. So I could add the action of adding the child to the bullet structure here, or I could do it down here where the enemies are actually being hit, but then that would probably defeat the purpose because I need this to be a check as well. So I'm going to try adding it here. So this will be updating an object variable. Specifically,
Into this.
the structure.
Try Lucid Chart.
This is what I was looking for. So add existing variable to the end of an object array variable. In this case, it will be the bullet. Actually, what is it asking for? Array variable, scene variable with the content to add. Okay, yeah, so bullet, enemies hit, and then the scene variable with the content to add. Scene variable. I don't want this to be a scene variable. Why is that my only option? Okay, slight difference here. We need the add number variable to the end of an object array variable, bullet, enemies hit. The number to add will be enemies dot, I keep saying enemies. This is actually going to be backers dot enemy ID.
So I started the program in February of 2021. It's 12 months long. Basically, the idea is that
All right, let's try to run a debugging window here, and we'll see what we get. So when I hit play, or next wave, and then I also put in towers. I'll start with one tower and a bullet. And it fired off a bullet there. Let's see if I can get both of these on screen. Actually, let's play that again. Pause it. I don't know if that bullet was destroyed yet or not. Let's see what we have on the screen. Yeah, 0. Let's refresh. Refresh over here. Now we have one bullet. It's going to be a little hard to test because it shouldn't be in collision yet, but it is on screen. So you can see the enemy's hit structure has nothing in it. And I need to go frame by frame. I should know how to do this. Okay, well, we can definitely see that it has the structure there, and if we go down to enemies, we should be able to see all of their IDs in addition to them being displayed on the screen here. Or rather, the enemy backers. There are 3 of the large type here, 58, 63, and 68. And yeah, so right here, there's the value of 0, 1, and 2, which does align with what we're seeing on the screen. So next, let's close this debugger. And then what we're going to do next is we're going to add a collision check, or not a collision check, we're going to add a condition check for if I think it's going to be the same thing if might be able to do this as a sub event. In this case, it'll be if the structure contains the ID of the enemy. In that case, it's going to apply the damage. So let's take a look there. And what I'm thinking about right now is, do I do this check here or do I do it further down here? So if the Boolean value of variable being hit of the enemies is true, it seems I need to add it here actually. Let's try it right here. So in this case,
With Fabletics, you're not just dressing for the gym. You're dressing for success. Act fast and grab
in this case, we want to go find that structure. Number of children, child existence, variables, object variables, arrays and structures. Check if the specified child of the object structure variable exists. The name of the child. So I don't know, if it's being stored as a string, then I would put it in quotations. I'm not entirely sure, but I will experiment. So if this will be of bullet, enemies hit, and then this would be, I guess it would be to string. Then in here I would put enemies dot, or not enemies, backers dot enemy ID. Why is it not liking that? Oh, there we go. check if the specified child of the object structure variable exists. And I'm not sure if the name of the child is the same as the contents. I haven't used this here in GDevelop exactly, so I'm going to find out if this has anything to do with it. And this will happen at the same time that the current check for actually applying damage takes place. It's an additional condition added in. So if this is showing up as false, the bullet itself won't even be deleted. So it'll be pretty obvious if it's occurring or not. Yeah, it is registering as false every time. Let's open up the object variable. Getting a little feedback here. Enemy ID, number, and then, okay, yeah, that's fine. And then go over to the bullet object variable, enemies hit, structure, children. So what I need to figure out is what the program is assigning as the name here when I add a number to this structure. Okay, scrolling back up to the point at which the enemy is created. It is
automation can send every marketing lead directly into your sales team's pipeline.
actually, no, that's fine. Add number variable. Remove a child. I'm just unsure of how to get the name. I do not know which name it is assigning when it automatically adds this number variable to my structure. So let me do a quick search here. Well, let's consult the old forums, shall we? Definitely always a learning process, right? That's what coffee's for. Yeah, this individual's having a different type of a problem than I have, but what I'm trying to do is look through here to see if they have any specific code that would apply here. In this particular case, he found this to solve his problem where it was creating too many structured children at the same time. And he did the inverse of child, some variable of scene variable question exists. Yeah, I found when you start to read JavaScript or pseudocode out loud, it really just doesn't make any sense. But yeah, check in the inverse of if it exists. So if it does not exist, then repeat these conditions. Change a scene variable. He removed a child from the, I'm assuming that's a variable of some type of structure. Question. And then changed a text object. Child number. Plus the variable. All right. So in that case, because I really, if this is like a non-piercing type of bullet, then I really just want it to check the very first index. And in this case, it's asking me for the child name. But if I can just check the first index, I should be golden. Let's see here.
Watch sports with live TV like cable with YouTube TV. Try it free. Terms apply. Cancel anytime.
Okay, maybe I can take a different approach. Instead of seeing if the child exists, we can do just a number check. We'll do if the enemy ID is equal to, then in this case I want to come in here and select variables, or rather objects, object variables, arrays and structures, of the bullet out of the enemy's hit array. So if the enemy ID that's in collision is equal to the bullet array variable first number of enemy's hit, and let's give that a shot. And it is in fact deleting the bullet, so it is testing as true. It has not solved my problem, but that is helpful that the functionality works, that the condition works. All right. All right, moving forward then, what I want to try to figure out is really how to get just that one number out of the array. This is the first, it says it's the first number, but let me pull up the documentation. When in doubt, right? It's always the last resource. All right, reading through here, accessing child variables and structures or arrays. The variables that exist within the collection variable are known as child variables. We know this much. And then to access the value, use the following syntax in expressions, replacing the values with variable names. So parent variable dot child variable. And this kind of goes back to the issue I was having, is I don't know when it's automatically adding the number to the structure, I don't know what this name here is. Otherwise I could do the dot method. Child variable is the name of the child variable. Obviously, on arrays, it is the index of the child variable. Only numbers work as indices for arrays. No, those are my enemy types, don't need that. Okay, so you can use expressions to dynamically access child variables. Whatever is inside the square brackets will be interpreted as the name of the child. If you need to use a variable to define part of the child path, all the subsequent children in the path will need to be in square brackets as well. Okay. Wonder how much of a difference it'll make, because right here I have add the number to the array variable enemies hit of bullet. But I do wonder if it makes a difference that I'm using a structure. Obviously it's super similar, and it's just funny that it's described that way. Alright, pulling up the old preview again. Spawn some enemies here and throw a tower down. Alright, so that's where we stand. Let's do this in debugging. Oops. Okay, here we have one bullet. And obviously the enemies hit array. I changed it from a structure to an array, and it is showing as empty. I don't think that there is a frame by frame debugging feature here, so it's going to be hard to get the exact frame before the bullet is deleted. Yeah, right there, it's already been deleted.
What do you get when you combine the power of AI with Azure? More intelligent apps, personalized customer experiences, and streamlined processes, just to name a few.
Well, I wonder then, just for testing purposes, maybe I should make a scene variable that is an array that will not be deleted. It'll basically mirror exactly what's going on here with the bullet. Oops. Close that. Go ahead and save the scene just in case. So yes, let's create a scene variable. And this will be Alright, we'll call this one scene enemies hit array, obviously as type array. It will initially have no children. Apply that, and then back here in the scene, at the same time that a bullet in collision with an enemy is adding the ID to the array variable enemies hit a bullet. In this case, it'll be a scene variable.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here. Big Wireless has once again raised their prices. In response...
Add number enemy backers dot enemy ID to array variable enemies hit of bullet. In this case, I don't want an object variable, I want this scene variable. So this would be adds a number at the end of a scene array variable. Number to add would be the enemy ID. Now let's debug that. Alright, so the scene variables here you can see the wave arrays, but what we want to look at is the enemies hit. Right here. Okay, so we have 0, the value of 0. Now if I let this play, it should collect a few more IDs. Pause. 0, 0, 0, a bunch of zeros, because it's only hitting that first one, that first enemy there. Now it should have hit some of those back ones.
You bundle things right, and that saves you up to 10% on your USAA home and auto insurance. Get a quote today.
But it's not. So this one is giving me a hard time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to step away, get some fresh air, think it over, and if you've ever had a bug or a sort of a road bump in your game development, let me know in the comments what that was, and if you have any suggestions or any features you might think would look good in this game, let me know and I'll see if I can implement those as well. But definitely appreciate you hanging out with me and watching, and talk to you again later. Thanks.